The Guitar Hero controller has got to be the most recognizable video game accessory ever made. Since I haven't played in 15 years, this is my controller, and what I'll be using to make my vision come to light. The basic idea behind the game is press a button on the neck that corresponds with the colored note on screen, then hit the strum bar at the moment of the note. It's just that easy. If you couldn't tell, I'm not a Guitar Hero player. I play Streets of Rage. The second game is my favorite. The idea behind that game is to take your solo character and defeat all the baddies on screen before moving on. They couldn't be more different, but they do have something in common. Earlier this year I found out that I was cheated at Streets of Rage 2. In my distress, I began to binge cheating videos, and that's when I saw the one about Guitar Hero. I was constantly asking myself, how do you prevent cheating? And why do people cheat? I found the answer for Guitar Hero by coming up with the idea of attaching lights to the buttons that are being pressed, which would make cheating on it impossible. That's if I can get it to work. The problem with it though is that nothing worked. Like nothing worked. I also found the answer to the age-old question of why people cheat.
I've chatted to him and I've noticed that his passion for the game is pretty much gone.
But I'll get into that later on. So I guess that makes this the story of how a Streets of Rage 2...
Without trying to sound like I'm blowing smoke up your or anything, I think iconic for the game, really.
Modded an anti-cheat Guitar Hero controller and found the answer to the most mysterious question of all time. Geez, is there anything this guy can't do? I love Max. For those of you who don't know, Max is the slow Hulk from Streets of Rage 2 for the Sega Genesis. Max was my first YouTube video, first speedrun, first world record. I took Max to Games Done Quick, or he took me, since they wouldn't have wanted me there without him. If I was to marry a video game character, it would be Chun-Li, obviously. But Max would be my best man. Me and Max have done it all together.
And time. And that's world record. Nice.
So when the time came to attempt the impossible, a no death on the Mania difficulty, a feat never accomplished, I went after it. And after 8 grueling months of grinding, I was the first person to finally pull it off. And I did it. With Axel. Quick explanation. There's 4 characters in the game. These 2 didn't stand a chance, so they were out. Between Max and Axel, Axel just didn't get hit as much, and had easier strats to pull off. Sometimes things don't turn out the way you think they will. Originally, I wanted to keep as much of the Guitar Hero controller's modifications in-house, with no extra cords. Just drill holes, place the lights, and tap into the controller's onboard 5-volt power to turn the lights on. In my mind, this thing was going to be a flashlight. I attached the button and light to a 4-pin micro switch. 2 pins for the button, 2 for the light. Perfect. That way I press the switch, and both the button and light are activated at the exact same time. I added colored gels to match the button color. The idea is that you can't confuse which button is being pressed. If you press green, the green light will turn on, red for red, yellow for yellow, so on and so forth. Once engineered all together, it looked like this. Although the controller and lights were working, it wasn't the bright, burning experience I intended. 5 volts is not a whole lot of power. I was going to have to use an external cord and plug it directly into an outlet. The problem there is that a standard outlet is 120 volts, a lot more than 5 volts. Way too much power, and way too dangerous. I'd have to find a way to plug into the outlet while limiting the voltage to something more manageable, like 12 volts. Another issue is, even if I could find a way to convert down to 12 volts is over double what the controller is normally handling. I didn't know what problems the extra power would cause, but I was going to find out. Like I said, it took me 8 months to get the no death, and that's not including the months I spent building up to it, or the decades that I had already been playing the game. Unlike my dim 5-volt Guitar Hero lights, I was completely burned out. Even though I should have taken a long break, I felt incomplete.
I want to really be gearing up and putting in the no-death runs.
Max needed his moment, his no-death victory, and I was the guy to get him there. After 6 months of grinding and failing, I was getting close, even making it all the way to the final boss before being struck down. It was just a matter of time. the Streets of Rage community expecting the no death at any run. In the middle of my stream, it was announced that player L had achieved a no death with Max, beating me to it.
You did?
2
You
weeks
got it?
later, I got my
Really?
Max no death. 2 weeks shy of being the first. Now, player L is not this person's name or gamertag. I won't be using their name or footage of them. I have my reasons, which I will explain later on when I tell you why I think people cheat. I have to warn you, the reason why people cheat isn't very electrifying. It's actually quite boring. So although we all have fun in guessing the reasons why people cheat, I will be demystifying it for us. I had accepted that I would come in second. It honestly didn't bother me all that much. Anyone who's ever competed in anything understands that you can't always come in first.
That makes like 2 of us.
I know.
No death.
More people have been on the moon. More men have walked on the moon than have beaten that game no death. After all, I had been beaten to it by one of our oldest, most esteemed community members. He had achieved speedrun world records and developed more strats than anyone. It made sense that he could legitimately pull it off, and I never thought otherwise. After conceding to my no outside wires rule, I found a setup that would work perfectly for the bright flashlight-like lights I wanted. I got new, bigger lights and could still hook everything up to my micro switch. The great thing about these switches are that they fit perfectly in the guitar, and I'm holding strong to the idea of modifying the guitar as little as possible. Which is a nice way of saying I don't want to hack this thing apart any more than I already have. That being said, I did drill 2 new holes for the strum bar, attaching lights to them, one for up and one for down. For the second time, everything engineered together. What could possibly go wrong?
Thumbs up, down.
My max no death happened in May of 2019. In May of this year, 3 years later to the day, player L released his confession video. He never got a no death. He spliced his run. He cheated. My initial feeling was devastation. It's a stain on the community. And I couldn't help but feel that it was an intentional slight against me. Everyone knew that Max was my character, or what it meant to me to get the no death with him. What could go wrong? Electricity is unpredictable, or at least it is at my electronics skill level. The higher voltage was flowing through the controller, causing buttons to misfire randomly. I got control over it with some fancy tricks, but not completely. 99% of the time it worked, but that 1 out of 100 the voltage would find a way through, hitting an extra untouched button. It gets harder and harder every single day that you do this. And it's not working the way you want it to be working, and then you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out, like, how do I get the brightness of the light, and now it's spiking the game, so buttons are being pressed without me pressing the buttons because there's voltage just flying all over the controller. How do I stop that from happening? How do I... A part of me wanted to leave it, to quit. I thought about faking the video so it looked like the guitar was working when it wasn't. After all, it's working 99% of the time. Just edit out the mess-ups. Who would know?
It's impossible.
If you saw my last video about playing The Lion King at the same time on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis with one controller,
Come on, circle of life it. Circle of life it, dude.
then you know that my brother Peter moved from where I am in California to Texas. I was flying over to see him. Gonna head to Austin pretty soon, Austin, Texas. A couple hours. I was going to say, no, you're fine. I'm filming myself. No, yeah. We can get one together. Yeah. Here's Peter. He's doing his thing. He's getting mad like normal. Thanks for picking me up, dude. I know it sucks.
And yeah, this is as far as it'll go.
Oh man, I just laughed and inhaled a bunch of cigar smoke. And this is Streets of Rage 2. Like, when I was young, I did a, talent show, and I juggled 2 balls.
Yeah.
And, that's not a talent. juggling 2 balls.
You want to get into talking about the Streets of Rage 2 cheat, how you feel about it?
It's difficult for me to have an opinion. Obviously, you're my brother.
Yeah.
There was something that rubbed me the wrong way about it, where I felt like this is, like, I don't even want to go as far as say, like, oh, this is bullcrap, because it's like, I didn't know if it was bullcrap or not, but it felt off to me.
Yeah.
And, like, it came out of nowhere, so it's like, any of the runs that you were playing at all were out there and were public. If he was playing at all, it was in private, where nobody knew what was happening, and he was trying really hard to sneak that in before you knew about it.
It's been a long time, though, since those runs.
I'm not as good as you are at Streets of Rage 2.
No.
But like I'm
That Russian guy who was in charge of the whole Olympic doping scandal,
yeah.
he was saying there's like, I think it was like a 10 to 15% of people that will cheat no matter what. That's just people who can't help themselves but to always find whatever the edge is, even if it's cheating, and to always take it. I think if there's those people, I think there's a 10 to 15% on the other side of the spectrum too.
I'll just never cheat.
That will never cheat ever. That's not being the best at something.
Yeah.
It's not anything. It's
Yeah.
nothing. What do you got to say about it, Bree?
Stupid.
Why you cheat, stupid?
That's why, like, I guess if there's like a silver lining, it kind of like you got no death with 2 characters before anybody else pulled it off.
He legitimately was playing the game, going for no deaths, and just could not get it.
Yeah, nobody could do it. The only way that anybody could even like take the spotlight off of you for a minute was cheating and lying about it. It's like nobody could hold a candle up to Anthopants, you know?
My days in Texas gave me some time to think about how to get past being cheated out of what I've always considered to be my greatest video game achievement. Hey!
It's such a hand.
Everyone calm down. Everybody calm down.
You're good at this.
Oh God, Anthony, you're so sweaty. I understand that being cheated out of a first no death with max isn't as bad as, let's say, the destruction of the entire universe and everything and everyone in it. But I think we can all agree that although it isn't as bad as all of this ceasing to exist, it's still pretty dang close. Oops. We saw the bats fly out from under the Austin Bridge.
Oh man, they're starting to come out of like everywhere now.
Yep.
Bats! That's some straight up Batman level of bats right there.
Cool, you see him out over there?
Yeah.
Luckily, you didn't see any water moccasins in the water moccasin infested water.
That doggy pass.
It's the pinnacle of athleticism.
Used my leisure time to binge watch a bunch of video game cheater videos. And that's when I saw Karl Jobst and Abyssoft's Guitar Hero video. The main issue with that cheater was that it was hard to see what buttons he was pressing, which gave me the idea of attaching lights to the buttons, allowing you to see exactly what someone is pressing at the precise moment they're pressing it. I'm totally playing, yo. While trying to get my head right, I struggled with the same question all the videos asked: why do people cheat? I have the answer. To understand why someone cheats, you have to first understand what it takes to accomplish something without cheating. You see, if we get wrapped up in the explanation that a cheater gives, you'll drown in a snake-filled river of excuses. I wrote out a page of excuses. It took me 5 minutes. I can write thousands of these. None of them are anywhere near the actual reason. There's 2 reasons. 1, laziness. 2, the inability to take the L. L stands for loss. You see, rather than boarding the train of hard work which only has 2 stops, hard work towards your goal and you get it, or hard work towards your goal and you don't get it, a lazy person splices the train tracks straight to the goal. It may sound counterintuitive, but in order to be a winner, you have to lose. And people who won't allow themselves to lose are losers, because only a winner can win. I want to talk about the world record. Like, how long did it take to get that?
Long story short, it took about 7 months of just pretty much every single day 3-4 hours doing the same thing over and over again. So it was a long old grind, but it was good in the end.
Still, the excuses I wrote down are important because at one point or another, every one of them went through my head. I thought about cheating when I was attempting the no death. I had plenty of excuses why I should, why I deserve to get the no death. But I never gave in to those excuses. I turned to hard work and strength of character to continue on. I gave myself 2 options: win or lose. Both have value. I told myself cheating so that people think you won has no value. We all struggle with thoughts of cheating, lying, stealing, or worse. At least I do. And I have every single day that I've been alive. I can work very hard to come up with a lot of excuses why I can commit any one of these acts. Or I can work very hard to come up with reasons why I shouldn't. And then I have to put in the hard work to be that legit player, or person that doesn't do bad, lazy things. We still talking about video games? I hope that ruins the fun of why did they cheat for you, since it's really as simple as laziness and the inability to take the L. Sorry. And now I'll tell you why I won't say the name of the cheater. You see, we have some basic needs. We want attention and we want to have an impact. I'm going to be a little absolute here to make my point. If you don't have the skill to build something, then you'll want to knock something over. If you can't get positive attention, then you'll get negative attention. Player L got attention and had an impact that he didn't earn. Why would I give him more attention and allow him to have more of an impact? I'll give you what you earned. Nothing. I do think there should be some form of a punishment, but I also believe that people make mistakes and that they should be given the opportunity to grow. So maybe the ban for cheating should be as long as it took for them to confess. In the case of Player L, it would be a 3-year ban. Maybe something like a 3 to 6 month minimum. At least that way it incentivizes someone to come clean. And if they have cheated, I don't think a lifetime ban is the way to go. Why prevent them from bettering themselves? I'm not sure what to do about a person who never comes clean, but like everything, including my shoddy workmanship, I'd love to hear what all of you think about that in the comments. If there's a better way, let's find it together. Time to evolve my strats. I found a new switch that would allow me to hook everything up with no interference. Button going to the controller, the electricity going to the lights. No problems. And I'm hoping this little badness right here is the secret, the key. Except I'd have to let go of not wanting to hack at the controller, and hack at the controller some more. This was the route to victory. Kinda. It's actually really hard holding this thing. Yikes. All engineered together.
That's good, that's good.
With a little surprise that's completely unnecessary but adds to the fun. I'll leave that for the end. I'm Anthopants, and I was the first person to get a no death in Streets of Rage 2 on the Mania difficulty. I did it with Axel, even though in my heart, I wanted to do it with Max. I also modded a Guitar Hero controller with lights, so you can see exactly what someone is pressing when they're pressing it, making cheating impossible. I put all that work into a game I don't even play, really as a form of therapy, because as it turns out, I am the first and only person to no-death Streets of Rage 2 with Max on Mania. And although I hope not, maybe I always will be. Just me and Chun-Li.
Yeah!
Now, we play Guitar Hero.
Let's do some upgrading. I don't know if this thing even still works.
Oh. Hey everybody, Anthopants here. Thanks for checking out the video with my crazy mod. I hope you liked it. My next project is gonna have to do with this game right here. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, this is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Yeah, obviously it's gonna be a lot crazier than you think. It's not just gonna be a dude playing the game. It's gonna be, I'm gonna be doing something crazy with it. So if you're wondering, how can I help you out with all this crazy stuff that you're doing? The best thing you can do, honestly, is just to share the video. That's the best thing you can do. The best thing you can do is share the video. The more eyeballs we get on it, the easier it's gonna be for me to do this kind of stuff. Thank you, I appreciate it. Anthopants out. The Nintendo 64 controller is got to be the most recognizable video game controller or accessory ever made. The Nintendo 64 controller has got to be the most recognizable of all of King Trident's weapons. If your daughter is giving you trouble by keeping remnants of the human world, this is your weapon of choice to destroy her precious artifacts.